Thank you. I note staff in libraries across Victoria have been given a new LGBTQIA+ instruction called the Rainbow Libraries Toolkit, which requires libraries to ask the gender pronouns of children as young as 5. The Allan Labor government launched the toolkit and advises library staff that adding books on gender diversity to their collections and promoting the drag queen story events to children will make them more LGBTIQA+ friendly. The toolkit advises library staff not to assume the gender pronouns of primary school-aged children. The explanation for this is, quote, "It is important to recognise that, especially for young people, gender identity and sexuality can shift or evolve over time. Children in particular may want to experiment with different gender expressions, and we can support them." End of quote. Library staff are told that even if they are familiar with a child who visits their library, they should, quote, "leave room for them to express a change in their identity, including by prompting them if they still go by the same pronouns. Checking in casually about their pronouns. Do you still prefer he, him pronouns? Do you still go by Sam? Or is there something else you'd like me to use?" End of quote. Now, what the hell is going on? When these books, written for children, supposedly, are opened, it's easier to see they're actually instruction manuals for sex. Who puts gender propaganda into libraries for primary-aged children to access? Who runs drag queen shows for children? Who talks to children as young as 5 about their gender identity? Groomers do. The Australian Labor Party does. Who knew the P in ALP stood for perverts? The inevitable outcome of this childhood grooming will be an increase in gender dysphoria in children, leading to increased pharmaceutical interventions. Here is what we know about the drugs used in gender dysphoria, commonly called puberty blockers. According to the TGA product assessment for Leuprolin, the purpose of the approval is for the treatment of cancer. The drug reduces the production of hormones on which cancer feeds. Fair enough for adults. This reduction in hormones causes, quote, "atrophy of the reproductive organs." What are the side effects? Dane case 816594, 26th of July 2024, female aged 9 years. Side effects included pain and fat necrosis. Fat necrosis, according to the Cleveland Clinic in America, is the death of fat tissue in the breast or other organs. The damaged fat may be replaced with a cyst or scar tissue. Nice. Dane shows there have been 42 reports of adverse events to Leuprolin in children aged 10 or less. Less than half of the reports include age, so the real figure will be much higher. This drug costs taxpayers $271 for a low dose and $1,370 for a high-dose prescription. At a time when taxpayers are struggling with the cost of living, why is the Albanese Labor government choosing to spend taxpayers' money on this? Why? The propaganda around this very expensive drug is that these changes are not permanent, and the transgender lobby repeat this as a mantra. It's a lie, a straight lie. The condition that is reversible is precocious puberty, where a child goes into puberty at a very young age. Puberty blockers do indeed prevent that child going into puberty until they are removed from the drug, usually around 11 years of age. The extension of that safety data to any child is the great lie of childhood transgender experimentation. There is no proof these drugs are safe on a child who has not suffering the raised hormone levels associated with precocious puberty. This is not my opinion. Britain's National Health Service has changed their guidance on children and puberty blockers, preventing their use for gender dysphoria on the basis that, quote, "little is known about the long-term side effects of hormone or puberty blockers in children with gender dysphoria. The effects of bone density in children whose central precocious puberty is arrested with puberty blockers are considered unknown, as they have not been studied." End of quote. Why the hell not? Why are these things handed out like confetti and like candy when we don't know their long-term health impacts? That is not responsible. It's criminal. It's inhuman. A groundbreaking documentary from the state-run television channel in Sweden has revealed a shocking case of bone damage on one child, Leo. He's one of 13 children treated at the Karolinska University Hospital who are known to have suffered catastrophic injuries from puberty blockers. Their ailments include liver damage, mental health problems, skeletal damage and a failure to grow. From that investigation, quote, "Leo is in pain most of the time. His back hurts badly when he stands up or walks. It is a hard life for a teenager and he has no idea if the agony will ever go away." End of quote. Leo has spinal fractures, the quote continues, Leo has spinal fractures and a condition called osteopenia, which weakens the bones, making them more liable to break. It is a disease that you often see in people aged 60 or 70 and is almost impossible to reverse, end of quote. The overwhelming evidence is that this atrophy, this damage to the reproductive organs of children, is permanent. We are administering this to children under 10 and it's sterilising them. It's this evidence that's seen 25 American states ban the pharmaceutical mutilation of children. Likewise, the transgender lobby will tell you a cross-gender identifying child has a greater risk of suicide without puberty blockers. A comprehensive literature review published in the Journal of the Endocrine Society found that there was no statistical signal that suicides increased or decreased from pharmaceutical gender intervention. So before the Munchausen by proxy brigade and before the lining their pockets brigade come after me, I suggest you take a long, hard look at yourselves. In estimates I asked the TGA, Senate estimates hearings, I asked the TGA if they had conducted safety testing and approved these drugs for use in children, and I was advised they had. I have a motion in the list for tomorrow calling for the release of that data, which is not on the TGA website. In good conscience, One Nation cannot support the continued harming of our children for a condition that can be treated successfully with counselling and love. One Nation will continue to defend the family and our children from the perversions of the Labor Party and bizarrely from Victorian librarians.